That was about 4 seconds of silence, something that most people cannot stand, according to a popular study from 2010. I couldn't find an update, but I doubt most people have become more patient in the last 12 years. You're still here though, so that's a good sign that you'll make it through this experiment. Informative video about attention. Even though, statistically, about 20% of the audience couldn't make it this far. So for you, here's the point. There is no guaranteed method for holding someone's attention. As a presenter or a dungeon master, all you can do is try to connect with your audience, your players, so they will give you their attention, moment after moment. As an educator, a YouTuber, and a dungeon master, I've learned a lot about this topic the hard way, and I'm going to share the major mistakes and the best practices that you can use to connect with any audience. Because I'm Bob, this is where we learn how to have more fun playing D&D together, and there's a really big announcement at the end, so you should really watch this whole experiment, video, even though statistically about 40% of the audience couldn't make it this far. Now, being an outdoor educator has a lot in common with being a dungeon master. I get to lead small parties on wilderness adventures and help them feel a sense of wonder and discovery, ideally to create lasting memories and an attachment to the world, the natural world, or the world of our fantasy game. As an interpreter of that world, I use my passion to instill excitement and curiosity in others. But sometimes I mistakenly use the wrong language for my audience. This is where many presenters fail to make a connection, and the audience stops giving their attention. Let me explain. Just last week, I led a group of 7th grade girls from a small suburban private school for a few days of outdoor exploration, team building, and character education. While they were all young girls growing up in a completely different generation from me, we shared a similar upbringing with previous outdoor experiences and an interest in nature. We spoke a similar language, so it was easy for me to be myself and to draw upon my interest in nature to connect with them and make their adventure fantastic. They even made me this cool clay thing. And this straightforward connection of being given attention when simply being yourself is what it's usually like when you run a game of D&D for your best friends. And you all have a similar amount of experience with the game. And now that I think about it, this is probably why I have such fond memories of my first D&D campaign. I was playing with great friends, and none of us knew what we were doing, but we made it fun. However, when you're leading this fantasy game for people who may not know each other very well or have very different levels of experience and understanding with its many, many rules, you have to adapt the being yourself part. This is true whenever your level of knowledge or interest in a subject is different from your audience's. And this is where, instead of making a connection, you can really break your audience's trust. Sadly, about 50% of this audience couldn't make it this far, though, to hear how you can avoid that problem. So, when I recently led the same kind of outdoor program for a different group of middle school students, this time from a dense urban population with, frankly, a different culture and different interests from my own, I had to adapt my language to appeal not to them specifically, but just to a wider audience. And this is the skill that anyone can master because we are all sharing in the same foundationally human experience. Let me emphasize, it's very difficult to accurately and respectfully shift your perspective to connect with a specific target audience that does not overlap with your culture, interests, and experiences, to put yourself in someone else's shoes when the shoes are really, really different. Without a high level of care and deliberation, you end up merely mimicking the language of that target audience, and that is how your presentation becomes, at best, tone-deaf, and at worst, offensive. What you should do, and what the best presenters do very well, is broaden your language to appeal to anyone on our foundationally human level of experience, where you can still be yourself. The challenge is that you can make this kind of connection in two ways. The genuine way requires more depth and vulnerability than you're probably used to expressing. So to avoid that, most people and brands use an effective but not ideal method. And nowhere has this method become more clear to me than on YouTube, where attention is everything, but it is often given so cheaply. And that's why about 55% of the audience couldn't make it this far. Because in this video, I'm not doing this.
You need to put down that big, rusty axe and put on your thinking cap, because you're wrong. The great thing about paladins is every spell you have is a damaging spell, thanks to Divine Smite. Example.
D&D Shorts is a relatively new TikToker and YouTuber who has grown their audience incredibly quickly through their mastery of attention. They create video thumbnails and titles that appeal to a huge audience among the D&D community by focusing on incredibly weird and powerful things D&D characters can do, all within the rules of the game. They produce a mix of very short videos and medium-length videos, and they use highly stimulating video editing with constant movement and sound effects that, moment after moment, captures the audience's attention. This high-energy, fast, and loud method of presentation is difficult for an individual to do that well, and it works. This is like the Dungeon Master who uses a unique and fun voice for every NPC and embodies the monsters in combat. They create physical props and use minis, terrain, music, and lighting, all to craft an undeniably attention-grabbing experience. Because they actually treat their players as an audience, rather than fellow players. Again, this works, but unless using this highly energetic method is being yourself, it's not sustainable. It's certainly not my go-to method as a DM, an educator, or a YouTuber. Or so I thought. On a recent video, I received a comment calling out all of my zooms and cuts and graphics and sound effects for being a distraction from the actual message of the video. And I really valued that critique. It helped me realize that I had been mimicking this language that is not my own in an attempt to appeal to a wider audience. And it was kind of working, but it was burning me out. Even as a member of the audience, I only enjoy a little of that high energy, fast and loud style. Then I soon find it overstimulating. It's like when you're driving and you have to make a turn at a busy intersection, so you turn the radio down as if it helps you see the oncoming cars better. To me, this style feels like racing through that intersection with the radio blasting while trying to get Siri to open up Google Maps on my phone. So what I needed, and what I think a lot of dungeon masters, YouTubers, and educators need to sustainably connect with their audience, is a return to being yourself. They need to do this.
Hi everybody, my name is Matt Colville, and as you can see, I am a white, middle-class, middle-aged nerd. And if you guessed, I bet that guy plays D&D, you would be correct. This is my channel, and it's about running Dungeons & Dragons.
Matthew Colville is an author, game designer, and popular YouTuber who has been around for a while. Matt was not the first person to start a YouTube channel about Dungeons & Dragons, but he is certifiably exceptional in this community. Even with very simple thumbnails and a simple video format, 10 to 30 minutes, talking head, lots of jump cuts, and the occasional graphic overlay or B-roll movie clip, Matt successfully persuaded thousands, then tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands of D&D lovers to give him their attention. This is the calm and confident dungeon master who doesn't make the game about themselves and their skills and their expertise. While Matt often speaks about his decades of experience with the game in his videos, he does not rely on his experience as a shallow badge of authority, as in, I have experience, therefore I am correct. In fact, he does just the opposite. Every time Matt references playing D&D in the 80s, it's a personal story through which we in the audience learn an important lesson about running the game, while learning a little bit about Matt as a human. Matt never proclaims to be a brilliant DM, and I'm pretty sure he's claimed that he's not. This humility, and really his vulnerability with his audience, is Matt's greatest strength as a presenter. His style, from the depth and simplicity of his videos to his long history with the game yet innovative outlook on it, all reminds us that real mastery takes time, and that's okay. Even though about 65% of the audience couldn't make it this far to hear that. Now, before we get to that big announcement you may have forgotten about, I want to highlight some of the lessons we've gone over and share some actionable advice. First, people have to give you their attention. It's usually easy to receive attention from people with similar knowledge, interests, and experience to your own. You can receive attention from other people using social mimicry and high energy, but these methods are usually offensive or unsustainable. And you can receive attention from other people by appealing to shared human experiences, but this requires vulnerability. And vulnerability is a scary word for a lot of people because it kind of implies weakness. In D&D, vulnerability literally means weakness to certain types of damage. But we need to look at it simply as being open, both when speaking and listening. If your players are a group of your best friends, this should be easy. If not, practice the listening part first. One more time, practice listening, because you need to learn about their knowledge, interests, and experiences before you can make connections with them. That is basic human interaction. And remember, 4 seconds of silence is often all you need to get one of your players to blurt out something to break it. And for a bonus, but not your go-to because it can be kind of shallow or easy to miss with people you don't know well, try to use comedy. Making someone laugh is a very easy way to connect, and fortunately, D&D can offer a lot of funny scenarios. Once you have that connection, you may be able to share your passion for the game world or the mechanics with those people, but mostly you should just be trying to inspire wonder and curiosity, so they will be intrinsically motivated to give you their attention as they start seeking answers. And specifically, for Dungeons & Dragons, there are a lot of options out there to help you inspire wonder. You can do voices, build props, and show artwork. But my favorite tool, which makes it super easy to evoke curiosity about a fantasy world, is the short, professionally written descriptive scenes from Describe. I've enjoyed Describe being our sponsor for over a year because I really love to use their service. It's simple to find the scenes I need and plug them into my game during prep or in the moment. It doesn't take up any space on my table or my shelf, and my players enjoy it too. A ton of Describe's content is free, but you can sign up and save 10% with the coupon code BOB. And even though about 75% of the audience couldn't make it past that sponsor plug, here's the big announcement. I'm giving you more of my attention. Yeah. Between running this channel, producing monthly adventures and podcasts on Patreon, planning my wedding with Grace World Destroyer, trying to have a little bit of a social life, and trying to live a healthy life, I can no longer stay at my other really cool full-time job in outdoor education. I'm leaving in a couple weeks, and it's kind of scary. So if you feel connected to this community, please like this video, share your favorite videos of mine with your friends, and maybe subscribe or join Patreon. For $2 there, you can join our Discord, and for $4, you can right now get every podcast and adventure I've published there over the last 2 years. But soon, some of those adventures will be joining the Homebrew Rules PDFs archived in a higher tier, but then those PDFs will also be published on DriveThruRPG, and picking them up there will be another awesome way to support me and this whole community. So, to be vulnerable for a second, I never thought this could happen, but it's all because of your support. So, remaining 5% of the audience, thank you so much for your support and your attention, and keep building.